Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're getting settled in, and we'll begin our introduction soon. I want to welcome everyone for joining us today for our first conference on immigration and social justice on African and Afro-Caribbean migration for 2021. So we'll do some brief introductions, and then we'll move on to the presentation of Dr. Pastor. Firstly, I am very honored to introduce Director Adoubou Traore, who's the director of the African Advocacy Network and who has led from the very beginning the organization of this conference. And I want to welcome you, and I know you want to say a few words before we begin. And your microphone is off. Your microphone is.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much, Doctor. And well, I'm so honored and humbled, to be the first person, to speak today. And I would like, to thank everybody, all the participants, for being there, and participating, in this conference. I'm the director of the African Advocacy Network, which is a San Francisco-based Black-led organization providing immigration and legal and social services to African and Afro-Caribbean immigrants in the Bay Area. We started in 2009. And it's been a long story, but I'm going to summarize by saying that it's been mostly a story of resilience and commitment. The commitment of some people who believe that, as a community from Africa and from the Caribbean, we in the United States, like all other communities, for a dream. And as such, in the process, so we need to sit back and think about who we are, where have we been, and where are we going? And particularly, in the days when, we are, all of us, full of hope with the new administration. And we suddenly, are looking at immigration, in a different ways than, we've been doing it, for the past 4 years. And I think that, meeting all of us, together today and really thinking about, how this community can be supported, with the perspective of power building. And also, looking at our community, from the perspective of equity, racial equity, social equity, economic equity. And these are all things that are really, important today. And that's why, I'm really happy, to welcome all of you. And just, for a little anecdote, and good morning, Professor Hing. We were at a fundraiser and so we had this conversation and I was telling Professor Hing, hey, I would like to have a small workshop with African immigrants on a Saturday morning to talk about us. And his answer, his reaction was, why do you want a workshop? I said, okay, so what do you think? He said, or a conference. I said, okay, so let's do a conference in San Francisco. He said, why do you want to do it in San Francisco? I'm like, okay, so where should we go? He said, Adoubou, we need to work together and seize this opportunity and bring together, all the children, of this community so that, we have, this conversation because I've been seeing things happening everywhere, but, I haven't been hearing so much from you. First piece, then I go to a national immigrant immigration conference in Arlington, Virginia, and between two workshops, I'm walking around and I see Professor Manuel Pastor. And, I shyly approach her and say, hey, Professor, I've been having a conversation with Dr. Hing in San Francisco, and we talked about having a conference. Would you be happy, to join us? And I remember, and I see have a picture. He said, you know what? Let's take a picture. And then so there were a few people around, so they joined in, we took a picture. He said, okay, we're taking a picture for you to remember that, if you ever do this and I'm not in, then we're gonna have a problem. So, and I think that, for me, there's something to learn out of that. Leadership in an emerging community is a constant quest for opportunities, talking to people, looking for ways. And I'm really happy that, this has been working, and that wouldn't be possible, without the University of San Francisco, and also, without the support of all the people. And I'm thinking, for instance, about, Manuel Santa Maria. I was babbling him, hey, we've never done that before. How can you help us? So, and it's been really, a combination, joint efforts. So, and I'm really happy on behalf of the staff of the African Advocacy Network and, and our board of directors, to thank all of you. And really, to close, I'm going to say, for me, I'm going to close with words of hope. This is a new beginning. And I really hope that, we laying here the ground, for a better future, for better equity, for better civic engagement and civic integration, of our community. So, and I wish everybody, happy hours, great hours of learning. And so let's stay together. And yes, everything is possible and we can make it together. And we do count on all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Traore. I should introduce myself as well. And good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Karina Odayan, and I'm the director of the Master in Migration Studies at the University of San Francisco. And I don't know how many of you have heard about our program, but we are the only graduate program in migration studies in the US Jesuit network, and only one of 2 or 3 in the whole United States. So from its inception, our program's goal has been to lead in training professionals equipped to address the priority of global migration. So it's a true honor to be part of this conference as it materializes our primary mission, which is that our scholarship serves our communities, specifically that our students receive the tools to work with and fight for the dignity and refugees and dignity and rights of all refugees and immigrants globally. So there's no more pressing time than now, not to strengthen our local and global networks. And as scholars and students who continue to learn and draw upon the work of local nonprofit agencies, government offices, grassroots organizations, migrant self-help associations, and cultural resources to create a true web of people working towards the betterment of immigrants and refugees around the world, as I said before. So in that spirit, I want to recognize the work of African Advocacy Network in helping us organize this conference. Especially, I want to thank Lizzie Bird. I want to thank also Maritza Quiroz, and everyone who was part of the organization on the side of the African Advocacy Network. But of course, a very, very special thanks to our student Hamida Ahmed, who has led us and organized us with a lot of patience and I would say discipline to start this conference, which started also, as Adoubou has mentioned, with a conversation with Professor Bill Hing. And then Bill Hing spoke to Hamida as well. And here we are now with this amazing group of panelists, activists, community organizers coming together for a common cause. So I do hope, and I know that this is hopefully a promise, that this will be a conference that can happen every year. And having said that, I do also want to thank our dear Professor Bill Hing, professor both in the law school and the Master's in Migration Studies, who continues to inspire us on so many projects, such as this one. So thank you to all. And I know that Professor Bill Hing also wants to offer some welcome remarks.
Thank you, Karina. And I really appreciate your gracious comments. And particularly, I wanted to acknowledge Adoubou and his leadership in this effort. He's right. When we first talked about this, and I'll be honest with you, and I confess that I'm a little bit embarrassed about how long it has taken us to pull this off. And I could give the excuse of the pandemic in part, but much of the reason that this hasn't happened sooner is because of the just so many interruptions by the hard work that Adoubou and his organization and others who are joining us today are involved with. I'll be honest with you, the idea of having this conference is long overdue. The framework of United States immigration laws are something that pretty much all of us on this conference have railed against in terms of the racism that is structurally part of our immigration laws. And we hear that structural racism argument very much lodged on behalf of Latinx immigrants and Asian immigrants, but we very seldom hear and acknowledge just how the structure is lined up against African migration. And it goes back historically to the history of slavery in the United States and the cutting off obviously of family ties, to the failure to acknowledge that Black people in the United States are persons under the Constitution, to as much as the 1965 Immigration Act is applauded as a step forward for Asian immigrants, for example, it left out African migration because there was nothing in the 1965 amendments, which is essentially the framework for immigration today, that allows for families or other large numbers of immigrants to come to the United States from Africa. And so what the African community has been left with is largely what I would say any kind of crack that might be open. And so yes, there are Africans that have been able to qualify, for example, for the diversity visa, which of course the previous president attacked the diversity visa. In my opinion, it was largely because he realized that Africans were finally being able to immigrate under the diversity visa, to the ability for some Africans to qualify under the refugee quotas that are established annually. But of course, we know the last president also reduced the number of refugees from abroad to historically low numbers, in large part to attack African immigrants. And the one other thing I'd mention that many immigrant rights advocates are upset about is what happened under the last presidency, the last administration at our southern border. And one of the examples of that's talked about and railed against a lot is something called the so-called Migrant Protection Protocol, MPP program, or the Remain in Mexico policy. And most people think of that Remain in Mexico policy as a policy that attacks people from Central America who have been coming and fleeing violence. And of course, that's true. But the truth is that the list in Tijuana and the eventual establishment of the MPP program was in response to large numbers of Black migrants that were at our southern border from places like Cameroon and Sudan and Haiti. That is the unfortunate genesis of the MPP program at the southern border. So I'm so pleased that that Adoubou is here to help cherish the moment of this inaugural event. And I hope it is just an inaugural event of many things to come. And my good friends that are going to join us later from organizations like Pan-African Network, and of course, Dr. Pastor, whose work I admire so deeply, and Dr. Scruggs, who I've only met a couple years ago, whose work I also admire. This is a wonderful lineup, and I'm so appreciative of the hard work that Hamida Dahir did. She's the one who actually pulled it off, and Lizzie Bird helped her, and I really appreciate their work. But welcome to everyone, and I know that we're all going to learn a lot and benefit a lot from the conversation today. Thank you very much.